So in 2024, the U.S. produced more energy than ever before. Natural gas, crude oil, natural gas plant liquids, biofuels, solar, and wind each set domestic production records last year. Renewables currently, like solar, wind, and hydro combined, are like 24% of U.S. power for electricity, and coal is 18%. So at 512 million short tons, last year's coal production was the lowest since 1964.
The significance of that date is pre-AC,
Right.
which drove the coal boom. So you're getting before the power grid really took off. I mean, that's all pre-AC.
That means the average person is consuming the equivalent of about 8 pounds of coal per day in the United States. Hi, I'm David with EV World News, and I'm back today on a Wednesday with our resident engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going today, Mike?
David, I'm doing great.
So in 2024, the U.S. produced more energy than ever before. So according to, in British thermal units, BTUs, we produced 103 quadrillion BTU.
Quadrillion, not just a trillion, quadrillion. Wow.
Yeah, quadrillion, a 1% increase from 23. Several energy sources, natural gas, crude oil, natural gas plant liquids, biofuels, solar, and wind, each set domestic production records last year. So what's interesting is you have some fossil fuels and some renewables all hit records. Yeah. Natural gas was 38% of U.S. total energy production in 24, and it's been the largest source of U.S. domestic energy every year since 2011, when it surpassed coal. Now, we've been watching, we told this all the time, coal is on a steady, every year it drops 1% or 2%.
Past 15 years has been a nosedive for coal.
Yeah. Renewables currently, like solar, wind, and hydro combined, are like 24% of U.S. power for electricity, and coal is 18%. So, I mean, the renewables just passed coal like in the past year. So before that, it was running dead even. Domestic crude oil was about 27% of U.S. total energy production. We continue to be the world's top crude oil producing country. It was a record 13.2 million barrels per day, 2% more than the previous year. Almost all of the growth came from the Permian region in New Mexico and Texas. Oh, coal is down to 10% of total U.S. energy production. Of course, we don't normally factor gasoline in there. So this is including this isn't electricity. This is all energy.
Because that's the crude oil. I mean, that's gas powered cars right there. That's not diesel generators.
Yeah, so people want to talk about dirty energy. So at 512 million short tons, last year's coal production was the lowest since 1964.
Whoa.
Yeah, think about that. So that's 60 years. That's 60 years.
The significance of that date, it's pre-AC.
Right.
Which drove the coal boom. So you're getting before the power grid really took off. I mean, that's all pre-AC.
Now think about that. So at 512 million tons, and there's 300 million Americans, that's about 1 and 2/3 tons. So that's about 3,200 pounds of coal. That means the average person is consuming the equivalent of about 8 pounds of coal per day in the United States. Now, I mean, I hear this, your car is fueled, by coal. Well, it's in the energy mix, it really isn't. But that's how much, if that's only 10% of U.S. energy production, and you're consuming, that means that other 90% is coming from something. It's just hard to fathom that per person. And I realize you're not necessarily using this in your house. It could be powering a plane that's flying overhead.
Oh, yeah.
It could be powering a train.
It's manufacturing. It's
It's
what produced the stuff that went into your widget, or whatever it is. I did a study on that years ago, and it was on video game systems, trying to convince kids to like turn lights off in their videos, and it was, I don't know, it was like 8 pounds of coal or something like that, like a half a charcoal bag. Like if you just turn the damn thing off when you leave instead of leaving it running, like you avoid burning this little pile of coal every year. It's I don't know if it went anywhere, but it's logistically, I mean, we know what a 40-pound bag of charcoal looks like. Go stack those out in your backyard to get to 3,200 pounds of it.
Yeah, well, think about this. If 100% of energy came from coal, each individual person would be going through like 100 pounds of coal a day.
A day.
A day. That's crazy to think about in terms of if that was the only source. And 1 pound of coal is about a kilowatt when it runs through a facility. And it's interesting just to think that the average person, though, and those terms, is using 100 kilowatts based on, like we said, all the things, manufacturing, all the things that are using power. It's an average of 100 kilowatts per person per day. That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of energy to produce the most modern, arguably the most modern society on the planet, right? Everybody wants to be in America because we have energy, we have all these nice things. And that's what it takes, 100 kilowatts of energy per person. And you got all these countries that have no access to power. Well, it's not really true. Maybe they're cutting wood. They're cooking their food still with wood.
Yeah. They're still producing energy. Yeah.
Yeah, they're producing energy, but it's just not efficient.
It's not the way we do it. Yeah. And I mean, we're like where we live in the country, it is the pinnacle of that. I mean, we are larger homes, bigger yards. We drive everywhere that we have to go. We have, knock on wood, like high employment. We have a lot of discretionary income that we spend on stuff. We're not thankfully in a position where food is scarce for most. I'm talking you and me, and a lot of, I mean, like we are the biggest, we travel, we do we're big consumers of energy.
Yeah, no, there's no question, but it's just crazy to think that that's how much energy the average American man, woman, child, infant, whatever is consuming. That's pretty nuts. About 100 kilowatts a day. Yeah, so we hit new records, and I guess it's another one of those things where, I'm a conservative, but my party doesn't want to disclose that energy was really that big under Biden, but it's because it grew in a lot of sectors every year. Despite all of the renewables, all the push to get rid of fossil fuels, oil and gas production keeps increasing. But like we keep saying, there's all these people who are in energy poverty, and they're in actual poverty because they don't have it, right? And what we've discussed this before, you give somebody 100% access to electricity, they go from $1,000 a year average to $7,000 almost immediately. And just energy. And that's how unfair being energy poor is in the world. And I don't know. I see all these things, and it's like, I don't feel I have the right to be criticizing somebody in Africa who wants to burn coal because they want to improve their standard of living.
Because they want clean water.
Yeah, and clean water and all these other things. The clip you just saw was part of our live podcast. If you enjoyed it, don't miss out. Join us every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right here on EV World News. We stream not just on YouTube, but also on Facebook and X, so you can catch us wherever you prefer. If you found this content valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share to help us grow. If you'd like to support our work, please consider becoming a YouTube member. It really helps us bring you the latest EV news and insights. I'll see you in the next one.